Everyone, welcome to my channel. Today we're going to talk about each of the zodiac sign, how they would be influenced by the Pisces full moon over the course of next 2 weeks. We have already gone into the detail of what the Pisces full moon will bring to the collective, both in the September lunation video where I went into a detail of it along with the geopolitical impact of it, and then in the weekly video also I have covered it. So take a look at that if you have not, just to take a overview of what's going to happen as a result of the Pisces full moon and what it means for us. Just few highlights before we go into each of the zodiac sign. This will bring back themes of 2015 in your life when the eclipses happened at this point, specifically March to November of 2015. If you would like to go back and relook at that part of your life, this is 28 degree of mutable sign. So at 28 degree of mutable sign, especially Pisces, there will be culmination, ending and release that will come with it. This is a harvest full moon. So new information which was hidden from us can also come to light, and with that will come conclusions and release, and we would be possibly creating something ethereal with this full moon over the course of next 2 weeks, which can be creative in nature, which can be spiritual in nature, which could be a product of our selfless love, which will grow in 2022 with Jupiter visiting these very degrees in May of 2022 and November of 2022. So this will be a key theme of 2022 for you as a part of your growth journey in 2022. And it will not just be part of your growth, this will be your contribution to the collective, especially to the collective healing that we will go through in 2022. So the creative breakthroughs, the epiphanies, the brilliance that you're having right now, that would come handy for the social evolution as well as the collective healing that will come about in 2022, especially with the Jupiter-Pluto sextile, which will happen in May of 2022. So look at the imagination, fantasy, creativity that you are exuding over the course of next 2 weeks and how to give physical form to that, because Pluto in 2022 will help you not just make a formal structure of that, a physical career or sort of a physical setup to it. It will also add influence, wealth and gainfulness to it. So that's what we are working with. Look at your rising sign, that is most accurate, and then followed by sun or moon sign. Sun sign I've seen most people definitely know accurately. That's why I always suggest to look at sun sign. The rising is most accurate to know. Moon sign is more relevant from a personal life perspective or emotional life perspective, but the combined effect of all three of them will tell you what are the themes for the next 2 weeks for you, all the way till 6th of October. My name is Charu. I'm your host on this journey. Let's dig in. Hi Aquarius. Aquarius, the full moon of 21st of September, which will influence us till 6th of October, is bringing to focus some matters related to your finances, your self-worth and net worth. This is the area of your life where some amount of fluctuations as well as confusion might have persisted for a very long time, and now there could be a matter related to your revenues, the money that we earn from regular sources of income, that might be coming to light, and it could be driven by the fact that we need to enhance our finances. So there could be an opportunity to earn an asset or increase an asset that you have been invested on before. It could be a skill set that you have to make money or a skill set to earn money, which now finally comes for a completion and fruition. And you could have been working on it for 6 months, but there is a larger long-term trend and a long-term theme that is behind your self-worth and net worth, which has been in the process of changes and fluctuations since Neptune came here in 2011. Neptune rules the sea, so there is a fluctuation wherever Neptune is in our chart. And for you, Neptune has been in your house of finances since 2011, and it will stay there till 2025. And when that happens, we are asked to look for the sources of worth in places different from what we have done before. It dissolves our reliability on traditional sources of income and traditional ways of finding worth within our life. It essentially is the higher octave of creativity, faith, spirituality, and love. So we are asked to look for our own sense of security and our own sense of self-worth, not outside of ourselves, but look in higher places in our own higher mind and higher spirituality for the sake of fulfillment rather than in substances. And I know it's a very nebulous thing to think of. I have it in my natal chart. It is when there is some amount of dissatisfaction that naturally comes in when it comes to finances, because we are never sure of the sources of income, or there's so much fluctuation in the sources of income that we never get this steady ground to stand on when it comes to security. So we get some amount of sea legs when it comes to finances, and over time you learn not to rely on physical things to fulfill you. And it holds true for food as well. This is the house of assets that we own. So it includes not just your sources of income, it also includes food substances. So the addiction or attachment to things comes into focus with this. But for the short term, for the next 2 weeks, be prepared that something related to income, finances, debt, loans, charity, or things that you do for other people which are related to money and assets might come into focus. And it will be the time maybe you have to take care of somebody when it comes to money, or you might have to focus on getting the right worth for your talents, because with Neptune over here we don't see our own worth very clearly, and this is something that becomes an issue when it comes to material wealth, because we are not able to ask for our true worth when it comes to assets. It's like the very thing that people have inside them called ego and called security. Water has been poured all over it and it becomes flaccid for you. So we are unsure of worth of our talents and worth of our own self and the assets that we own, and it leads us sometimes to not appreciating your gifts and not asking for your true worth. From a long-term perspective, there is a reason to that. There is a plan to it. Neptune always aims to dissolve certain elements from our life so we can see a higher version of ourselves through it. So through dissolving attachment to things, through dissolving our ego to some extent, it makes us look at sources of security within ourselves which lie in higher faith and lie in valuing things beyond substances. When you're creating or acquiring assets, it becomes more about gaining satisfaction from something beyond money and beyond physical assets. It dissolves our outer security in some ways. Whatever you rely on, whatever you tend to externally rely on, when Neptune is here, it tends to dissolve that because it wants you to find your sense of worth not in outside things. And we can either feel, sometimes with Neptune over here, we can even feel guilty about having money if we are able to get. And that causes a belief within us that we are not supposed to have it. And that in turn results in sometimes financial losses. And it becomes sort of a cycle, but we are learning the art of having a faith beyond things, having worth placed in substances beyond substance. What's the downside? Another downside of Neptune is that we don't seem to own anything when Neptune is here. So we become very permissive when it comes to our assets and our money. And that can cause a lot of confusion when it comes to finances, which are joint in nature. And we tend to give very freely, which is great because, again, Neptune's manifestation is to proactively even give money. One of the remediations of Neptune in this house is to, instead of money being taken away by nefarious ways from you, which unfortunately sometimes can happen with this position of Neptune, because cheating. Neptune is fog, so financial scams or somebody cheating you of your fair share of money, even if it's not through scams, but by underpaying you for your services in some ways, that can happen. So instead of that happening through an external force, a remediation of Neptune in this house is to proactively go and give money in charity. And that means that there will be some amount of financial help the others will take from you. The trust and faith that you are creating in your own assets will be based on assets which are non-standard in nature, which means that the talents and skills that you have, they would be beyond ordinary, which you will develop, and that will be what will become valuable for you. What kind of skill sets and assets they could be, as you redefine your self-worth with Neptune here, we would develop some nebulous or more creative skills which are more worthy as compared to the physical skills and assets. So they could be art of knowing human nature, art of conversation with humans where you are able to see through their perspective. This is where our physical ego is dissolved, so we are able to see the perspective of other people and their wants and their desires and their needs very clearly. So this automatically becomes a great asset to have in a person who is going to help people in some ways, whether it is even in a client-facing situation. This makes for great salespeople, because one of the assets that you have, apart from your obvious charm, which Neptune adds to with this placement, is the art of intuition about what other people need, desire, and value. So one of those assets that you create instead of creating a physical asset is this. The other is, of course, creative talents, drama, yoga, meditation, healing practices, spiritual practices. Those are your assets for life. The assets or the issues you need to be careful about is food over here, food substances, because with Neptune over here, it becomes difficult to see that we are actually addicted to something. So the next 2 weeks, it's not just about your assets and finances, it's also about the food you ingest and the diet that you have. And there might be some sensitivity or even addiction to food substances that we maybe need to look at. There could be a boundary issue with food and drinks which can come to focus. And with Neptune over here, we can get addicted to both kind of lifestyle. We can get addicted to a very healthy lifestyle and a different kind of diet. You just know that you will get addicted to a specific diet. So choose a good one to get addicted to, so it helps you and builds you up in some ways. Trust and belief in spiritual work. Trust and belief in powers which are beyond physical assets that exist in the world. They will become source of worth for you. You will be asked to create an ego beyond you by having faith in powers beyond you. And that is not just because of Neptune being over here. You have been having transits to your 12th house of spirituality and faith since 2017. And when Saturn, your ruler, moved into your 12th house, I call that the house of God's timing. So in some ways, when planets start coming, especially your ruler starts coming in 12th house, it becomes the time of God's timing. And now we have Pluto as well in that house. So since 2017, you have been having transits to that house. Pluto actually came here in 2018, but that's a very slow process. Saturn, your ruler, when it came here in 2017, that might have recreated a complete cleanup of house when it comes to dysfunction, when it comes to subconscious belief about yourself. So 12th house cleanup is cleaning house of everything and anything that blocks you, that you cannot see. Whether it is subconscious fears, subconscious motives, or it is understanding uncanny insights into your own psychology, that starts coming into manifestation when Saturn comes here, which happened for you since 2017. Now Saturn is in your sign since December 2020. So it's the time to recreate your external identity after some amount of restructuring has already happened behind the scene. But Pluto, the planet of power, still stays there. So there's still insights coming through, still fears, weaknesses that we need to overcome that are coming to surface. And right now Pluto is standing still. So this intense purge that you have been through of purging everything subconscious, whether it is fears or motivations that are blocking you. That process is peaking right now with Pluto standing still, and we are becoming aware of our own subconscious beliefs and fears that hold us back from asking our worth when it comes to financial matters, when it comes to especially joint financial matters, when it comes to not being able to stand up for ourselves because the flaccid ground that we have about our own worth blocks us from asking for our own worth. So losing some amount of this fixity around our ego, which also helps ask us for our worth from others. Pluto is saying there are some parts of it, some elements of it that we need to let die. Are you giving money to others or doing things for others out of your voluntary will, or are you being used? We are being asked to see that over the course of next 2 weeks. And some amount of reality of that will come out, because when Neptune is in your house of finances, we become too permissive with people encroaching on our boundaries when it comes to assets, when it comes to finances. Sometimes physical encroachment on our assets happen when Neptune is here. And you're being asked to see where we are getting too permissive when it comes to our finances, and handle that head on over the course of next 2 weeks. That might mean that we might need to release and end some sort of a drain on our assets, on our finances. It could be a loan or a expense or an investment that you did out of your goodwill or faith in 2015, which now you are being asked to release. It could be an actual asset or a possession that you might be asked to release. This is a very karmic full moon, and a harvest full moon. So something which was seeded is finally coming for a harvest and ending, because we need to make place for something better. It could be that an old source of income is coming to an ending because it is not fulfilling anymore. When we have Neptune in a house of sources of income, your sources of income have to fulfill you in more ways than material. So if your sources of income is not fulfilling you at a higher level, at a soul level, you would dissolve that outer security out either by yourself, by sometimes self-sabotaging yourself in it, or through giving it all away. With Neptune over here, we totally can give it all away. We can become so permissive and so detached from material things that we can feel that we can give everything up. Because we see that sometimes as a way of rebirth, purging all our assets. We sometimes feel that that's our way of redemption in some ways, that we'll find higher soul purpose by giving everything away, which we need to be careful about, because Neptune tends to go to one or the other extremes. It has a duality to it, and we have to find a middle ground with it. As I mentioned in the introduction, this is the degree of drowning, and in the degree of drowning, we can get too emotional and give it all away sometimes. Things we own, they are supposed to not be what we are addicted to, but they're meant to inspire us as well. So I'm not of a belief that we should not have things. When Neptune is here, we have to look for assets and acquire assets that inspire us in ways beyond having pride in owning something expensive. They have to inspire us through its beauty. They have to inspire us by what we created as a result of that. They need to have emotional meaning attached to it. Things need to have emotional meaning attached to it. Similarly, the food that we eat, when we are ingesting the food, the emotions attached to the food are more important. So sometimes the person who's serving you the food, who's making your food, who's putting those thought processes when they are giving you that food, becomes much more important than what you're eating itself. So the emotions attached to the food and the substance that you have in your life, they become more important than this is the diet I'm following, or this much money I'll put in the asset. So that's one thing. The other, the kind of professions by which you should earn money when you have Neptune over here, helping professions, of course, spiritual professions, creative professions, professions that put you in front of camera in some ways, because Neptune rules camera and media. So use of media and camera, more you put yourself out there when it comes to putting your image, your face out there, the more it becomes easier for you to earn money, because it's about detaching the inhibition. Sometimes we don't show ourselves because our egos blocks us from giving freely as well. So Neptune is camera, it's media, it's photography, it's working in fields of clairvoyance or poetry, drama, fashion, creative fields, but also fields where you use the power of your canny insight into what people need and want. So sales is sometimes a great profession for Neptune's transit through this house, but you have to use, of course, that canny insight, and you need to, one of the things that happens with Neptune over here is that because you are developing a different kind of confidence, a different kind of faith in your ability, a different skill set altogether. It's dissolving your old sources of income and creating new sources of income when it's here. So when it is creating a new skill set in you that will earn you income or get you assets or get you satisfaction or comfort or security, that skill set you are still not so sure about. And one of the key skill sets that it's creating within you is your intuition about people's needs and wants. Have more faith in it. Have more faith in your intuition about you knowing what the people are looking for, and see it test ride, whether it's in a product launch or it's in a psychological field or it's in a creative field where you are. You would have an uncanny insight into people's desires and wants and needs. So Neptune is in that process, and it will be joined with Jupiter next year. When Jupiter comes in a house of finances, it is one of the key transits for growth in both self-worth and net worth. So in 2022, we get more opportunities to increase and expand income from the sources. But maybe for getting there, something needs to be released during this transit. You are investing into your future during this time. You're investing into something that will become a source of your growth in 2022. So look towards it from a long-term perspective as to where you're going. And Pluto cleaning house, cleaning your subconscious, creating this power of your thoughts, where you're now slowly starting to believe that things beyond material matter. My thoughts matter. What I subconsciously think about my well-being and my sense of worth matters more than me investing in the right assets. Recognizing the role of things that we cannot see in our material world will help you in ways you cannot imagine in 2022, because we become aware of power of our thoughts and our ability to visualize and give energy to something purely by thinking intently in the right way about it. And the secret of the universe, as I call it, divine timing of understanding and seeing through plan beyond our own, it will pump positivity into your finances and in your sense of worth. So you could use this uncanny insight about human psychology in professional world to earn income, to create satisfaction for yourself, to create more stability for yourself, which means that the purge that you're going through, the mega purge of your psyche that you're going through, it has its purpose in material world. It has its purpose in professional world. It has its place in sometimes even opening up the inhibitions you have in investing or belief. Sometimes when Neptune is here, we have some beliefs about money which are not serving us well. They clearly are not serving us well. And we don't see that. We have to overcome it. They sometimes are built from before we were adults. So in our childhood, we have inherited some of those beliefs about money from our parents or from our family. We also inherit some of the ancestral qualities of sensitivity, empathy, artistic, creative qualities as a result of Neptune's placement over here. But we also inherit a sense of worth and how we look at money because of Neptune's displacement. So there's a purge of that factor also happening, which you did not realize before, that, oh, this was blocking the money, this was blocking sense of worth, this was blocking satisfaction, this was causing overeating, this thinking pattern about my body not being able to do what it can. Because when Neptune is here, we just don't doubt assets, physical assets. Our body is a physical asset. We start doubting our ability of our body to be healthy, and our body's ability to do what it does best, which is self-heal. And Pluto is showing you those belief systems. Pluto is trying to show you the cobwebs that have been on top of what seems like an external reality. There's so much depth to it and a reason for it to exist. So it could be deeply purging, it could be deeply emotional, but know that the next 2 weeks, when you handle your finances and look at your finances, your self-worth and net worth in a completely new fashion, there is a reason to get there. There is a reason for some endings. There is a reason that we're handling and managing possibly financial assistance to somebody. But be sure that financial matters that you're handling right now, they are of your own intuition, they are of your own thoughts, and they're not coming, you're not trusting and believing in financial scams or some get rich quick, unfortunately, schemes by people who are trying to sell it to you, or you're not believing you're doing charity versus people taking money away from you by encroaching over your boundaries. So those are the themes, Aquarius, I have for you for the next 2 weeks and for the longer term from 2022 perspective. I'll see you in the next reading now. Thank you.